we're very pro-American here. I love America. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be making this in America, and all of my suppliers are in America. They love what I'm doing. They know who my end users are. They take great care. I'm just so proud.
Unfiltered and unapologetic. She's in your face like, yeah, bitches, I said it. Authentic heart, honestly, really deceivably. Talking about life and all the betweens. She's Candidly Kasi. Not like pathetic. Candidly.
Welcome back to another episode of Candidly Kasi. I am honored to have this guest on. This has been a crazy story, and I can't wait to break it down. Her name is Erin Hendricks, and she saved my life years ago, got me out of a huge pickle, and I've been talking about her product and her company ever since. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome, Erin.
Oh, you're so sweet, Casey. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
I guess I should give the backstory. So when I was pregnant with Wilson, I wanted to breastfeed. That was my plan. I had breastfed with my oldest. And with that, everything went great. With Wilson, after a while, I just couldn't anymore. And I needed to go the formula route. And I wanted nothing that was, popular, we'll say. Nothing that when I had the baby, the hospital sent me home with, even though I was breastfeeding, even though she latched on. Everything was wonderful. They still gave me a little care package full of shit. In my opinion, that's exactly what it was. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to find something. And my friend came over immediately. We were looking, and she said, I found this company, Sammy's Milk, and I think it's great. It's goat milk based. We were reading everything. It's gluten-free. And I was like, oh my, we have to get this. So I don't know if you remember, before I ordered, I called because I think I wanted to make sure it was gluten-free. And you answered the phone.
Yes.
And I thought you were just, customer service. And you said, I'm the owner. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. And you said, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. If you have any questions, call me. And I'm like, this is not happening, right? And it shipped quickly. She took right to it. Never once did she spit up, ever. She was a baby, and she stayed on until she was 3. Never once got sick. It was a seamless transition. And I actually texted you multiple times. She was constipated, not from the milk, but just I was having things that I needed help with. And you were giving me all of these holistic
tools.
So, yes. And you always answered. I mean, you're running a business. You have this huge thing going on, and you're answering my questions. And I never forgot that. So I have told every mom, even when they're pregnant, even when they say they're breastfeeding, I'm like, listen, be prepared just in case something happens. There's this company. They're incredible. Here's the website. I've been talking about you for years. I mean, Wilson's 9.
Right?
9. Yeah.
Right. And I always look at it, my Sammy's going to be 19 this year. And I started the business formally when she was 1. So I'm going on 18 years of doing this. And back at the time when I was growing, I was wearing all the hats. So that meant a lot of the time I was answering the phone. I was doing all of the work myself in the beginning.
Wow.
Yes. But that's what most business owners do in the beginning. I mean, I think just from a business side of it, starting a business sounds so glamorous and sexy, if you will. But at the end of the day, it's a 24/7 situation, and I'm wearing every hat and gladly. I think that is what has gotten me through where I am today, because I know every aspect of my business and interacting with my customers like you in the beginning. So to get that feedback directly, what was working, what you were going through. And today, all the lessons that we learned in the beginning and things that worked and things that didn't still hold true to today with the same formulation.
Even with having everything and doing that, the fact that you gave me your number and were answering not business questions, this was personal. I felt like I had a lifeline where I wasn't getting that anywhere else. And now I'm very holistic and I do everything so differently. But then I was just getting into it and it was scary and I just didn't know how to do it, especially when, you know, she was constipated and the doctor's like, oh, give her Miralax. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And you had the solution. And it was that support that I just never forgot it. I never forgot that.
Right.
It was
Well,
above and
I've
beyond.
never forgotten you either. And it's funny
because I'm annoying.
No. It's funny, but back in the day, if you will, and again, almost a decade ago, the climate of the world was such that I was a little bit more free to interact with my customers. And today, you know, unfortunately, I've got to be a little bit more careful. And obviously we're bigger. I have people now that are doing things. I've got employees now, but I was grateful to know. So everything that I would have told you or that I would have emailed, I'm no longer allowed to share, if you will.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And my attorneys, sadly, too, are telling me to zip it. I'm a person, everything's out in the open. I want to be honest, transparent. We still are. I mean, obviously, that's how I run the company and everybody that works for me is such. But as far as giving extra advice, like you needed it, we're now no longer able to do.
That's okay.
It was fun. It was a really fun time. I mean, I think back at before things started happening and people call, I mean, it was an honor to be so close to my customers and having a stake in the game, knowing that Wilson was depending on me, you know, like to come up with something that I could keep your stress level down. And so the interactions were invaluable to me, Kasi, because it helped even when we're looking at improvements that I've made in the formula over the years, that based on all these early customer interactions, we've gone higher and higher on the ingredients, you know, non-GMO, cold pressed virgin, like all this small little tiny behind the scenes changes make it so, again, everything is just seamless in a tiny little body. I know who my end users are. And so all of our decisions are made on behalf of who we know is going to be swallowing Sammy's milk at the end of the day. All the little Wilsons out there.
I love that. So let's start with what inspired you to create Sammy's Milk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my daughter, Samantha, when I gave birth, I was breastfeeding and first time mom, and I was over 35. And was treated as a geriatric mother. And they still do that today, by the way. One of my Maha mommies, Real Foodology, in fact, she just gave birth over 35. And as she was sort of talking about her own journey, it brought me back. Sadly, nothing has changed, right? And almost 2 decades later, everything is the same. What they're doing at the hospital, what they give you, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go in for that first visit and your pediatrician is telling you your baby is not putting on enough weight, and here I need you to start supplementing. And I was trying not to panic, but I did what the doctor told me to do. It was one of the 2 leading brands. Again, I didn't know at the time, but are owned by the 2 largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And then all of a sudden I had this beautiful little child who was not pooping. I had a happy baby. All of a sudden in 24 hours, all the, corn syrup, it used to say corn syrup back in the day. Now that the FDA has let them change that. It still is corn syrup, but called a different name, glucose syrup solids. But these were the ingredients back then. And it broke my heart that I could see her struggling. Anyway, in my prior life, I was fortunate enough that I was catering to the surgical staff at the local hospital in Newport Beach. And nothing was online then. You know, the FDA was not online. There was no Facebook. There was nothing. But if you did go online and Googled goat milk, for example, you could actually get really good information. The internet was not monetized. There was no such thing as e-commerce. My cousin lived in Milan and said, hey, we use goat milk here. And I Googled it. I called upon my surgical staff. They pulled out the actual FDA books and thumbed through what is required of infant formula, from vitamins, protein, everything. And I worked with my very open-minded pediatrician, Dr. Misra, back in the day. So grateful to her. And she offered to purchase pharmaceutical grade fish oils and vitamins for me back in the day. And that was it. I provided it to her and she said, this is genius. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning. And I was panicked as a first-time mom, as I'm sure moms today still are. You know, you walk in and you're told this or that, and you're breastfeeding, you don't know how much you're making. But I never looked back, and I seamlessly went between the two. And here we are. My daughter's graduated with honors and heading into college. And I think it's all that pharmaceutical grade fish oil she got when she was younger.
I mean, even Wilson, so she was a baby and then stayed on it until she was just a little after 3. I mean, that was her, you know, it went from the bottle to the cup. So,
right.
And
that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. I remember her pediatrician, which I've talked about that enough. I'm not going to do that. But when they asked what I was giving, they wanted me to use what they had the coupons for.
Sure.
The 2 leading brands. And I remember I said, are you getting a kickback? What is the benefit? Because it wasn't even a coupon. It was type in this specific number on their website that was linked to that. And I'm like, well, why would I do this? Aren't you getting a kick? And they looked like shocked. But I'm like, you know you are. You know you are. They ended up kicking me out of their office. That was a whole separate thing. But they hated me. But she thrived on the milk. She thrived. There was no issues. Like I said, she never spit up. So you created it for your own need. And then when did you know you were going to go to where it is now?
That's an interesting question. My very first client, in fact, was a client of mine in my former profession and what I was doing in the fitness industry, actually. And I saw some pictures of her. She was a model, and a well-known model, actually. And I saw these pictures. A client of mine had given me, a baby, a photo shoot situation. And when we went to go get the proofs and look them over, I see my old client who had given birth to twins. And her 5'11" tall, here she was 3 months later, and she looked like nothing happened to her. I said, oh. So I reached out to her, and next thing you know, we were on the phone, we were chatting. I told her what I was doing because I didn't make enough milk. She actually needed some help. I started making it for her. And it turned out her pediatrician was a guy by the name of Dr. Sears, who had written some books on how to bypass some of the vaccines and things of that nature. And next thing you know, that's how it all started, actually, was a friend, a client. And then word started spreading in Southern California. I was sort of called the goat milk lady. And one thing led to another. And there I was making fresh formula at the time. When I started, it was wet, if you will. I was working with a goat farm close in Southern California and mixing it up, and it moved into a commercial kitchen. And so that's how it all started. People were passing out my cell phone number. And that's how it all started. Very grassroots, if you will. Yeah. I didn't realize, Kasi, there was a wonderful health holistic store near us called Mother's Market in Orange County. And they were so far ahead of their time. They've expanded now, but it used to be, again, they were the only game in town. There was no Whole Foods, no Sprout, none of these stores. And I remember Samantha's father and I down in the aisle going, why isn't anybody making anything healthy? When we knew immediately that those pharmaceutical powdered sugar, nutrient devoid product was plugging up our daughter. And we went into this health food store and no, there was nothing. There was literally nothing. And I was so naive at the time. Why isn't anybody making anything? So that's what I did. And that's how the whole thing started. I had a personal need, which I think a lot of moms do in this industry, which I love. There's a void. We solve the problem. And then you have people requesting your services or your product. Can you help me? I need some help. I need some help. Of course you're going to help. That's what we do as women. And so that's how the whole thing started, and lots of bumps in the road, but there you go.
Now I noticed that your packaging is different. I had it with the canisters. I love the bag. I love that.
Yeah. And you know, when that came out was during COVID. During COVID, you know, there, at least off Southern California at the time, you could see there was 100 cargo ships all over and all the ports and things not getting offloaded, this and that. So there was a supply chain issue, and the supply chain issue was packaging. So it was a blessing in disguise, actually, because we've gone to something now that's more eco-friendly. And I had a lot of moms and dads messaging that I made that original canister that a mother at night could palm it and hold it with a baby in mind. You've got a baby in one hand, you're doing this. So it was meant for a woman. And then I had a lot of feedback. Hey, my husband can't get his, manly hands into the canister. So we felt better about it. Again, we wanted to lower our contribution into landfill, honestly.
I love it. I think it's great. Tell me about your ingredients.
Yes. Well, again, proud. I'm so proud of our ingredients. I honestly feel there is no comparable product anywhere. Honestly, I mean, all the way down to methylated vitamins. So the goat milk we're using, they're from moms. We're part of what's called the Humane Project and certified in that, meaning we let our goats feed their own, they're called kids actually. So the mommy goats are feeding their own baby goats until it is time naturally for them to wean. And then we start milking the goats. So we make sure all of the goats in our herd are kept unless somebody's getting sick. That way we're not giving antibiotics. We're not ever giving them growth hormones. They do that in cows and chickens for the meat on the bones. But in the dairy world, they also use those hormones to produce more milk. And ironically, it yields a less nutritional milking. So in our case, our goat milk, when we test it out for nutrients, is so high naturally occurring vitamins because we've got happy goats. They're sensitive little creatures. They're so cute. But again, our fish oil is wild. Our non-GMO avocado oil is virgin cold pressed. And then we use methylated vitamins. And actually now we're going to be upgrading and adding another methylated vitamin in our next run of B6. So we have methylated folate, methylated reduced folate, methylcobalamin, which is B12, and then we're going to be having methylated B6 as well. So no soy, no corn, no bovine products. So honestly, there's not another company that can tout those bullet points, if you will. And again, it was just, how could we provide something that on a large mass, it's going to be the cleanest possible for any child, despite what it is they're going through. So that's how we came to everything. And I'm so fortunate that all of our suppliers we've been working with forever, and they continually are improving their product knowing who our end little customers are. So I'm grateful. Yeah. Good relationships.
I think it's important, and I know I'm going to be blasting this out, and my friends are going to be sharing this with new moms. It is so scary. And then you have fear mongering, and then you feel like you're doing everything wrong. And you feel
Right.
like if you go against the grain, if you will, that you're doing something wrong. And it's important to step back and say, none of this is normal. It's made to be normal, but when you look at the ingredients, it's not. The same as our pet food. It's trash. That's why I make my own pet food.
True.
Yeah, we're not eating food anymore. And people have just accepted that as normal. And it's, especially with your baby, this is the first thing that they're getting besides your breast milk if you decide, or if you can't, some people can't. This is so
Right.
good. It's so gentle. And like I said, I saw a seamless transition. It was seamless. I'm not making that up. I was
No,
scared
right.
because I'm
Right.
like, she never even, I didn't pump. It was breast. So then I'm like, I'm going to a bottle and I'm going to something different. And the whole
Right.
thing was seamless. I just
Right.
knew immediately whatever worry was in my head because it was being fed to me, and there was nothing. There was
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So I just want people listening to understand that just because it's popular or promoted, especially in your doctor's office, take a step back and just look at what's in it. Google it if you have to. Google the ingredients. And you should probably get 3 in, and you'll be like, Jesus, it's not hard.
Yeah. Right. And it's not even just for formula, if you will. Like, that's what I tell everybody. Ingredients are listed from a volume perspective, or weight, if you will. So ingredients per the FDA, they have to be listed, whatever is the most plentiful is number one, and down the line. So that's what I tell everybody. You don't need to go past ingredient number 5. That is what you're consuming. And if you cannot pronounce any of those words, move it along. Like in ice cream, when we have ice cream, it says cream, milk, eggs, and sugar, and organic if, we can. But that it's not rocket science, actually. And sadly, that's what we've been doing here, is just keep it as close to God, Mother Nature, however you want to call it, but keep it simple and keep it clean. And that's just like it was intended. And not to mention, and to add on to what you said, Kasi, I don't think what people realize, but the first year of life, and certainly the first 6 months, I mean, you can break it down to the 4th trimester, the first 12 weeks, but honestly, those first 6 months are the most crucial time in anybody's life. That's when the nutrition needs to be the most clean. That's when your immune system is getting set, growth factors, everything, brain and eye development, all of these things. It is the most crucial time for our babies to be given the highest amount of nutrition that they can, because it's going to set them up for later.
Yeah.
And again, I never did anything that I didn't, my poor daughter was the first guinea pig of all of this. But I look back, she just was never sick. Even when she was going into daycare, being a working mom, she just was so healthy because of what I was putting in her mouth.
Same goes for me with Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Never sick.
Exactly.
I remember we went to one of the last appointments we went to, because we don't have like a pediatrician. If something's wrong, we'll do urgent care if we have to. But the well visits are not for well visits, right? And we went and they said, what are her allergies? She has none. Well, what medications? She's never taken medication. And they looked at me and they were like, whatever you're doing, keep doing. And I'm like, it's crazy that they were so baffled by me saying this, because it's just unheard of. Right. It's not the normal. It's not normal. Yeah. It's normal to get the flu every year. It's normal to get strep throat. It's these things are just, it's what it is. And it's really not. If you have a good, your gut and everything's good and you're healthy and you eat healthy food, you're setting yourself up for success.
When you say normal, I think the better clarification is that's what they're telling you.
Yes. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's not normal to get sick all the time. What's normal is that your doctor is telling you that this is normal.
Yes.
And that's the clarification right there.
And thank you for that. Yes, you're 100% right. This episode is sponsored by Boron. Since 1932, Boron has been dedicated to providing high-quality medicines made from Earth's best resources. As a world leader in homeopathic medicines, they're passionate about sharing sustainable health solutions for the whole family. You can find Boron medicines at retailers nationwide. Learn more at boronusa.com. Let's talk about one of the easiest wellness upgrades you can make, switching to real high-quality honey. I use Bees and Trees honey every single day, and it's one of those small habits that actually makes a big difference. It's raw, pure, and packed with natural goodness, nothing like the overly processed stuff you find on most shelves. Whether you're adding it to your coffee, tea, or just taking a spoonful, it's a simple way to support your body while enjoying something sweet. And especially if you're focusing on hormone health, energy, and feeling your best overall. What you put into your body matters. This is one of those feel-good staples I always keep on hand. If you want to upgrade your routine, you can get 10% off at checkout with code CaseyDiStefano at beesandtrees.com. That's www.beesandtrees.com and use code KASIDESTEFANO. It's a small change, but it's a powerful one. Okay, if you have celiac or even just gluten sensitivity, this is something you need to know about. Eating out or trying new foods can be stressful because no matter what anyone says, you never really know if something is truly gluten-free. That's why I use Nema. It's a portable gluten tester that lets you actually check your food before you eat it. And as someone with celiac, that peace of mind is everything. Instead of guessing or hoping for the best, you can feel confident about what you're putting in your body and avoid getting sick from hidden gluten. It's one of those tools that just makes life easier and takes away so much of the anxiety around food. If you want that extra layer of protection, head on over to nemanow.com and use code Casey at checkout to save 15% off. That's NIMANOW.com, code KASI. Trust me, once you have it, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. I just went down a rabbit hole, when you're born via C-section, that your body isn't getting compressed the way it does, and it affects your microbiome in your gut, and then how that can affect things. And then if you're slamming terrible formula, like you said, that's the first introduction that everything's just off whack.
Yes.
It just is.
Yes. Yeah. And my niece is in medical school right now. And I think she's now switched. She's doing her orthopedic residency. I think she got so tired of me sending her what medical school is right now. Hopefully that will change. They've talked about it. I've seen nothing. But, they're not teaching nutrition in medical school. They're teaching you how to manage. I told my niece, I said, I'm going to love you no matter what, but just realize that you're being trained and groomed to be a legal drug dealer. And listen, I don't know if she changed to orthopedics because she was getting tired of me, but I kept sending her all this information. And even when you look at specifically the industry that I'm in, and that's just pediatrics, if you will, I mean, it's egregious what they do. And to your point, all that has come out that they absolutely do receive financial kickbacks, and not just from formula, right? Those two formula companies are the same one that make everything they want to inject you with too. And the antacids and the poop medication, that brand you mentioned before, it's the same makers of the formula. So that's the model. And that's what our Health and Human Secretary has spoken of numerous times. There's nothing more lucrative than a sick baby. Why? I mean, it's very simple. They feed you with sugar, and then, you've got reflux. Then comes the baby antacid, which, mind you, that drug right there is prescribed to children less than 1 year old. That is the largest subset in our society. It's babies that are given antacids. That's the number one prescription is written to babies. So they get that prescription.
My God, what?
Yeah. So it goes, they feed them sugar, They give them antacids and then they can't poop. And then comes that medication you mentioned a few minutes ago. Same companies make the drugs. And then usually when they're not pooping, then you start getting things. They give idiopathic names to things because they don't know how they started. Whatever, colic, eczema, you name all the autoimmunes that start coming. And again, they still don't know where those come from. But if you look at children not able to poop and or adults, you've got sickness, right? Yeah. So that's the model. That's what they do.
If you create the problem and then sell the solution, you'll be in business forever. I did a video years ago on, I said the name, but I'm not going to say it again, on to go to the bathroom. Very commonly prescribed, blah, blah, blah. And I had the bottle and I said, if you look on the bottle, 17 and older, right there, says it, 17 and older, right? And it blew up. And all these parents were like, the doctor told me that I could give it to my blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that may be. But if you look at the bottle, the manufacturer is telling you this is for ages 17 and older, right? Why would you ever give that to your kid? I don't get it. I know somebody who has been on that for years. From a child, they never got off of it. They cannot go to the bathroom. Every 4 days, this kid has to take it because he can't go to the bathroom. And I try to talk to the parents. And that's what it is. And it's sad. And I'm like, people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I love doing research. I do. It makes me very happy. I want to learn stuff. I want to know what an ingredient is. Exactly how you just said. They changed the wording. So it's like, oh, well, I don't see that in there. But it's in there. They just changed the name. Yeah. And some people
with full FDA backing, by the way, they let them change the name. I think what people don't realize is that infant formula is a prescription drug. When you turn over infant formula, it doesn't say nutrition facts. It doesn't say drug facts, but anyway, but when you look, you can look it up on the FDA website. Infant formula is under their prescription drug umbrella. So it doesn't say nutrition facts on there. I think now they let them put nutrition. Again, totally misleading. But that's the issue here. We're talking, two companies are controlling a multi-trillion-dollar monopoly with full government support. And then comes everything else in line. And again, the product that you were mentioning, you can buy over the counter. So, you can go in and buy those things in a drugstore over the counter, but they're still a drug. So they actually prescribe an infant and the name you gave earlier. So they do have an infant prescription, all of that. But that's the part here that, going back to when I said, why isn't anybody making this? Why isn't anybody doing this? Like, I had no idea it was a prescription drug. And then I got punched in the face with that information when things started coming down the pike. But it is the biggest monopoly, I think, still that is in this country right now. Nobody says anything. They want to break up the telephone companies and the whatever, Ma Bell back in the day, right? But this is the largest monopoly that the two largest pharmaceutical companies run in this country. And if you think about it, it's worldwide. So anytime there's a problem with infant formula, they are sending this to every country in the world. So it's a big deal. And with full FDA backup, if you will.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I have to say, though, so my friend Holly found your milk, and she's the one that came over. And I am extremely grateful that I did not go down this path of trying this fail. I literally hit a gold mine and was able to stay with it. And that is because not everybody's that lucky. You don't know, right? So I was able to find you. Thank God, I said, for Holly. And then that's who I stayed with because it was great. And I just want people to hear, you are so informative. You know what you're talking about. You know the ingredients. It's your story. It's your product. It's your blood, sweat, and tears. It's your sleepless nights. It's everything. And I love the fact that it's named after your daughter. I think that's so cool. What does she
Yeah.
think about it?
That's an interesting question. Well, when she was younger, she didn't want anybody to know. I remember, being on the soccer team, and one of the moms had a little baby. She was having some problems. I remember coming to practice, and I picked it up and I handed it to the daughter who was on the team. And all of Samantha's little friends said, "Oh my gosh, is that you?" And so it was the first time, I think, she sort of had a different view on it. Like, oh, wow, this is not embarrassing. My mom, because sometimes in public I would approach people. I could see what's in that bottle. Like, I could tell, and handing out my card, happy for you to try it. So that's what I did. So I think it mortified my daughter in the beginning. Now she gets it. Now she's grateful. And again, now she's a young woman. And I think she's feeling, I don't know, proud. I hate to put words in her mouth, but knowing everything that I've been through, because it's almost like another child. Like, I'm so passionate about it. And so many people depend on me, right? So during tough times when my daughter was sort of getting the short end of the stick with my time, if I was having to, in the beginning, work a second job or two to pay for an FDA attorney, a Prop 65 attorney, and I had to hold a couple of jobs. And so my daughter suffered a little bit from time, but she, I think, honestly gets it now, and has been admitted to one of the top 10 business schools in the country, I think. So again, I don't want to take credit for it. She'll never see this, but I'll just say,
Yeah.
I think she's grateful, because when people hear, like, oh my gosh, I've heard of your company, like, are you Samantha? So I think now she sort of gets why I went through what I went through to be here in this moment right now talking to you. A little more relaxed right now than I was a decade ago.
Let me ask you this, because you just talked about this, and there's a lot of women who are balancing motherhood and career. What is your greatest piece of advice?
I mean, everybody uses the word balance. It's such a cliche, but what worked for me, I think the word being present. So when I was home with her and our time was limited, I turned my ringer off. I would have you, whatever, and made sure that even in the moments, and it was breakfast before school, that we were goofing around. I think in times when I get nervous, and people who know me, I tend to go to humor and make a joke in the situation. So I made sure everything in our house was fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, I might pop around the corner and throw her clothes out or something, just goofy. Yeah. Just made sure I was present with her. And then the other thing, on things that were important to her, it might have been the soccer game way back when, I would make sure that I did block off my schedule and didn't schedule anything around. So anytime that things were important to her, I wanted her to know that they were important to me. And I prioritized those moments. So that's how you get around all that. And I did my best to not let her absorb, like, if I had a hairball conversation I need to have, I would actually walk out of the house. So she couldn't hear maybe some bad words that might have been coming out of my mouth or what have you. But I did my best to sort of shield her from the mayhem. But on the other token, I also put her to work. I said, can you help me? Do you want to help me? Whatever, if it was filing, do you want to put these in a box? She loved the tape gun, right? Back when we were shipping. So I'd include her in some things as well, too. And, and implored her help, and would sometimes bribe her with things. It might have been ice cream when she was younger, but then money seemed to work when she turned into a teenager.
I love that.
So yeah.
I love that. What were some of the biggest obstacles you faced when you were getting this off the ground?
Well, listen, getting it off the ground, I really didn't have any obstacles. Isn't that funny? Like, in the beginning, like, I there was an amazing goat farm within, a 45-minute drive. So I was so grateful, honestly, to God. I prayed a lot too, but that the right people kept showing up for me. I don't know. You always hear that about people who, are clear about what they want to do and how it's going to look like. And then all the minutia of it sort of just comes to being. It was like, it was meant to come to pass. But honestly, is when I started having some problems with my own government, that's when it sort of hit me. I said, wow, I could not believe the pushback from my own government. And then that's when my whole world changed. And perhaps the tinfoil hat was put on me before conspiracy theory was even a term, that I was being weaponized by my own government back when there was no such term as weaponization. I'm sure people hadn't even heard that a decade ago. Yet here it was happening to me. And when I sat back and like, why are they doing this? And then that's when it hit me. I'm like, this is a pharmaceutical world we live in, driven by dirty pharmaceutical money. And that's when I tightened my chin strap and my bootstraps and really started, met a lot of attorneys at that point to protect me, and had all the right people wanting me to fight because I'm the only one that was strong enough. I was so naive at the time. I didn't know. No wonder nobody was making this, because nobody wanted to deal with the federal government. I didn't know. So probably my naivete was a blessing in the beginning. And then when I got schooled on what was going on, it became my greatest strength on what was fueling all of this. And then grateful to moms like you, Kasi, because most moms are not like you. And a lot of them right now are still not. When you're a mom for the first time, it's a different story than, you taking your mom in there. This is your baby. And so to your point, they sort of scare you into doing X, Y, and Z. You don't even ask questions. You just do what they're telling you to do. So it was a combination of me standing up strong, not willing to fold, which they thought I would do right in the beginning. And then not only did I have wonderful suppliers and people around me urging me to go, I had a good handful of customers like you that were depending on me. And so that's what kept me going in the beginning. And I'm grateful I didn't give up.
Me too. I feel like when I started, that's when you were kind of going through some of it, because I remember being like, what is the problem? Like, this is crazy. This is great. And then that's when I started my own deep dive. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it would have been so easy for you to stop. And I'm proud of you for not, because I certainly needed you. My baby needed you. And the mothers, if I'm not incorrect, I feel like there were many times that I messaged you and asked to give your number to somebody that I met that wanted, and you said yes. So that was years after she was off of it. That's who you are. By the way, right. Nobody listen to this and think that I'm doing that, because I'm not going to give it to you, and I'm not doing that anymore. But yes, this has all the information that you need. But I mean, that's how you are. You're not getting that from any other company. There's never been another company in any realm that I've had this type of communication with the owner, the founder, the creator, the day one ever. There's nothing like that. And my mom owns a restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't have that with her. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Mom.
Well, and and to your point, it goes back to nobody was doing this. Yeah. Right. So I felt like I had to do my best to talk some people off the fence, tell them it was going to be okay, on just general stuff. Like, no, I mean, anything that was huge medical problems, I wasn't that stupid to lead somebody down where they shouldn't have been. But at the end of the day, and also looking back on it, when you're talking on the phone They can't really hold me to anything like they held me to things in writing. You put an email out, that could be there forever, or a text message or screenshot of your website at the time. But a phone call, I could do that all day long. So yeah, I spent hours on the phone every day when people had questions, and I was happy to do it. And even just arming them with enough information, like, okay, just ask your doctor these couple of questions and see what you get back. And so it was, I mean, you think about it back at the time, I don't even think you could really find goat cheese in the store. Like, we're just
Now
not a country.
right.
Now Trader Joe's has it, for goodness sake. They've got a variety of them now, right? But at the time, I felt like in the beginning, I was educating people on goat milk. You know what I mean? Getting them past the mental thing of what goat milk was. And then I run into a problem, and then we're educating them on this situation next. So everything, I felt like it's been a little bit of an education going down the line. And right now, the hot button is seed oils, right? Everybody gets a little thing in your mouth or in the ear. And that's probably the number one question I get all the time, you know, seed oils, seed oils. So listen, it's been an evolution, and I like that the general public, if you will, has been getting more educated, because honestly, that's what's got to be done. You have to take ownership of your home kitchen and your own body and your family's body, whatever that means to everybody. But that is the best medicine. I take a look at my grandparents who died respectively at 106 and 100. These are my Norwegian grandparents. And it was so simple. There was a dead animal on their plate every day. You know, they were eating protein. They had to walk a quarter mile to get their meals. So it was good nutrition, a little bit of exercise, some fresh air every day. It was very simple back in the day. So ironically, I love everything that's happening right now. People are going back to what your grandmother did, or whatever that saying is, you know, eat what your grandmother ate, or whatever. I forget the saying, but I love that people are getting back to basics, it feels like, which is good. Whole nutrition, which is imperative,
When you said that you have people ask their pediatrician questions, what would they be?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, again, this was years ago, but I think now what's coming up are seed oils, heavy metals. That's a big hot topic right now. And then what we're finding right now too is allergies. It's so sad that how many, and again, it's going back to their gut is already so messed up. And I actually think that has more to do with pesticides, you know, and again, what the FDA is allowed. I mean, you know, I don't even think people are aware. I get asked all the time, is your product organic? And we can't do that right now because of our goat milk yet. They graze on grass all day. They're provided organic feed if they need. We have to employ the surrounding farms. We have to get massive, very expensive geological surveys done for groundwater runoff. But the biggest thing, I think the problem is that we're dealing with are the chemicals, you know, whether that be from farming, from agriculture. So even though products, this is where organic, I think, is almost ridiculous now, because even though things are labeled organic, a lot of them are testing positive for glyphosate, for example, and all of these chemicals. The fact that we're non-GMO and we test for chemicals and pesticide residue, all of that stuff, I think that's what's done a lot to mess up the microbiome in the gut. So we're seeing a lot of allergies. So when people are coming back and saying, oh, my baby's allergic to the goat milk, we're probably saying, probably not. That is probably not what is going on. Did you actually get the test? Well, no, but my doctor is telling me blah, 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 blah. Yeah. See what I'm saying? So a lot of times what we'll do is say, well, you can look this up, but according to the CDC's allergen list, your baby is most likely to be allergic to avocado is, I guess, a tree nut. A lot of people some say a fruit, some say a tree nut. But anyway, it is our highest allergen. Goat milk is almost at the bottom. And so we arm people to go back to not take what they're telling you, but to actually get a test. Yeah. Get a test for the allergy. Ask your doctor what your doctor would suggest to rebuild my child's microbiome. What? So again, when you arm people with just some basic questions about, ask your doctor, how would they have your baby clean their gut out? How would you do all these things like poop, all of these things? Then they realize, oh, my doctor doesn't really know what they're talking about, the general ones. Now, I'm thrilled. A lot of pediatricians nowadays seem to be doing their own reading, biohacking, everything's in their face. I don't know how they could be. Seed oils. Every doctor's had to have heard of seed oils right now. But again, so we give people those questions on the office. Well, go back and ask your doctor about inflammation in the seed oils or inflammation, this and that. So then they go back and they realize their doctor doesn't know what they're talking about, sadly.
Yeah. We go to farms to get our vegetables and stuff, and we go to farms that practice regenerative farming and don't use pesticides. So we went to a strawberry farm a couple weeks ago.
Love it.
And we're picking, and some of the strawberries had worms. And these kids were freaking out. And the mom goes, that's because they don't use pesticides. When you go to a farm and you see this, that's a good sign. And I was like, I was so happy that she said that, because it's the truth. If you go to a farm and everything's perfect and there's no bugs and every single one is picturesque, you might want to ask why that's happening, you know, right. And people don't. And I think you're absolutely right. The pesticides are a big problem. It's a lot of it. All right. I want to share something that's been a staple in my routine for almost 2 years now. Primal Queen. These are female-focused beef organ supplements, which might sound a little different, but hear me out. They are packed with some of the most nutrient-dense ingredients you can give your body. We're talking about real, whole food nutrients that support things like energy, hormone balance, skin, hair, and overall vitality, especially during seasons like perimenopause when your body needs the most support. I've started taking them almost 2 years ago, and not only has my skin never looked better, I just feel more supported overall. It's about nourishing your body from the inside out in a way that actually makes sense. If you've been feeling off or just want to level up your wellness routine, this is something to look into. Go to primalqueen.com/Kasi. That's primalqueen.com/KASI and save 25%. Don't overthink it. Your future self will be glad you didn't. Let's talk about something nobody really wants to talk about, but we all deal with: gut issues. If you're feeling bloated, sluggish, or just not as regular as you'd like, it can throw off your entire day. That's where Inalax comes in. It's designed to support healthy digestion and help keep things moving gently and effectively, without that harsh, uncomfortable feeling you get from a lot of other options. When your gut is working the way it should, everything else just feels easier. Your energy, your mood, your overall vibe. So if your body's been giving you signs, this might be something worth trying. Head on over to www.inalax.com and save 25% when you use code Kasi at checkout. That's INULAX.com and code KASI. Go take care of your gut. You'll feel the difference. Okay, ladies, I want to talk about something that completely changed my life, and I don't say that lightly. If you're in your 30s or 40s and suddenly feeling off, low energy, mood swings, anxiety, not sleeping, weight changes, and you're wondering what the heck is happening to me, it might be perimenopause. I've been a patient with MIDI Health for almost 2 years now, and it was the first time I actually felt heard, understood, and taken seriously. They specialize in perimenopause and menopause care, and they create personalized treatment plans, so you're not just guessing or being told this is normal. For me, getting the right support made a huge difference in how I feel day to day. And now I'm actually a proud ambassador because I truly believe more women need to know this kind of care exists. This is truly women's health. You don't have to just push through and feel miserable. If you've been struggling and not getting answers, go check out MIDI Health at www.joinmidi.com and see what's possible for you. Let me ask you this. Besides me, not that I'm saying I was like a special case, do you have any kids in mind that you're never going to forget?
I gotta say, I had a baby that was dying actually in a NICU situation. And she was so desperate. She ended up putting my product through a feeding tube and her baby lived. And they were literally having last rites, like they were right on the cusp. And there's been a couple of situations like that where, again, back in the day, you just said, at the end of the day, this is your child. And I mean, nothing's working. And they went for it. And within 24 hours, that baby had a turnaround. Within 48 hours, the feeding tube was out and happy, healthy kid today. And so there's been a few stories like that. That was the most like touching, if you will. So we've gotten a lot of feedback like that. We just posted, I think yesterday, I get thank you notes a lot. I always don't put them up, but we put up one yesterday. So it's sort of an honor that with that thank you note came an invitation to a first birthday, because, you know, in some of their minds, they might not have had the first birthday invitation able to go out, you know, with a sick baby. But I didn't realize when I started this, again, almost 18 years ago, when even in the beginning, I was so grateful. And I'm not going to say her name, but if she does hear this, she knows who she is, and I love her. Her grandmother started the first nutraceutical company. It was called Claire Labs. And her grandmother started that. Like, it was unheard of, whatever, 50 years ago when her grandmother started this. And that was my original formulator. So she was the first person that had clued me in what methylation was and what methylation is on our body. And then one of our contributing pediatricians, whose name is still on our website, Dr. Oftenberg, was a voracious reader. And not only was he all about the methylation, he knew the brand. And I still use the same brand today. Quattrofolic is my partner. And, you know, I have to give a nod to the brand name on my label. Happy to do so. But he knew it was the best from the testing, everything else. So from the beginning, we've been treating this like a pharmaceutical, putting in the highest absorbable ingredients available to us to put in. And every time there's a change, quietly, we've made vitamin changes when something, you know, becomes this and that. Again, we don't really market it. But again, anytime there is something presented to us, they figured out a new way to manufacture something that vitamin D3 can get into the bloodstream quicker. We do it. So that's what we do. We don't hold back on any of our ingredients to make sure that everything can be absorbed and with no irritation into that gut. You know what I mean? The more they poop, the more they can absorb. So we've been talking poop here from the beginning. People don't understand how important it is. You got that baby, you have to have a clean digestive tract for it to actually absorb the nutrients, which is why I was happy to talk you through Wilson's. We can't have a baby not pooping. That's a non-negotiable. So we talk boobs and poop all day long here.
I love that. So tell me about your products. What do you have, and what should people be getting?
Yeah, and Kasi, thank you so much. When you're encouraging your pregnant mommies, like you had just said about trying the product, this is the best way to go, because this is like a sample pack, and then you can see inside here, easy to open, what is on the inside are individual packets in here, and you're given 5 of these. So this is super easy to try or put in your diaper bag or your hospital bag, if you will. And this makes a 4-ounce bottle. So we have these on the website. And again, your listeners will get 10% off. So all in total, this would be about $10. The other sizes, we have the same thing. Again, this is for more of an established customer or mom. It's on the go. That there are 20 of these little individual packets in there, right? There's 20 of these in here. And then we have a large pouch, just loose powder that would reconstitute and make 40. It'd be an essence of getting 40. So you're buying 5, 20, or loose powder that makes 40 4-ounce bottles.
Okay, so one last question before we give all your socials and all of that fun stuff, and this has nothing to do with this. What is your skincare routine? Because you are glowing. You're glowing. Come on. No, you are. You're glowing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, love you. It's interesting. Gosh, you're going to make me cry, Kasi. Oh. I know you are. I think through all my trials, honestly, with the government, I never really got sick because I walked the talk, right? But what ended up happening to me, you know, as a woman, I remember when the guy running for governor is the first one who came out after me. And then again, under Biden, he was his health and human secretary, spent almost half of that administration coming after me. And what ended up happening, although I was not getting the flu and everything else, my body, I went into early menopause. My hormones got a little whacked up. I'm so grateful I'm working with a naturopathic doctor on how to handle my hormones. So I am eating my way and supplementing my way out of Hashimoto's right now and doing a really good job. But I got to tell you, yeah, it's been a hot minute. So again, I always do a deep dive. They want to throw you on thyroid medication. Like I'm going through this as a woman right now. The regular doctor wants to shove a drug down your throat. And I said, we're not doing that. And when you look at your thyroid, it only is producing about 20% of the hormone. The rest of it is in your gut. So I'm having a new relationship with stress, right? I have now like a new routine every morning and getting my lymphatic system going, breathing, getting my feet in the grass, getting sunlight, going back to basics myself, right? So thank you for that. And I've been working really hard on breathing and getting through the day and doing a deep dive into all the right supplementation, getting my own microbiome working optimally. I mean, who knew microbiome? I'd never even heard of that word 18 years ago. But again, here I am as a mature woman, well into my 50s. And then now looking, it's no different.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. What?
Okay.
I'm being serious. You. No, I'm being.
If you weren't married and I played for the other team, I'd want to come date you. You're so cute. But yeah, but who knew that everything is boiling down to microbiome, and not just me, Wilson as a baby, any tiny little person that I have, that's what we're discussing really is microbiome and how crucial it is to have a clean gut. You know, we used to talk about detox, cleaning that baby out, transitioning from different formulas. Like your baby will have a little bit of detox, which happens like that. But again, you don't realize as an adult, all the little things. So I've been doing my best, like the EMFs, turning all that off at night. I call it a little bit of biohacking, but between a little bit of that biohacking and looking at, again, all the supplements, like actually what they're meant to do, like the precursor to serotonin, like what is that vitamin? What is that? So that's what I've been doing now. And honestly, for the first time in 20 years, this is the first time I've actually been dealing with myself. I just didn't realize what the stress was doing to me. And that's okay. I've been healthy through all, but thank you for saying that.
I would love, and I know you are very busy, but sometime down the road, if you have time to come on and talk about just women's health, menopause, what you're doing, because people are going to be watching this, me like, I need all of the details. I'm telling you, you are glowing. You're glowing.
You're so sweet.
I'm serious. Thanks.
This will be the highlight of my day, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so tell people where they can find you, where they can order, if you have any sales going on, all this stuff.
Well, and Kasi, now you and I talked earlier that anybody listening to, I know you're going to put in the comments, but we've set up as Sammy's 10, Sammys. So it's plural, Sammy's 10, like Sammy's, just not the milk part, Sammy's 10. So any of your listeners and participants, please use that code anytime. We will be having a large 4th of July sale. However, it's sort of aimed at our current customers that if they're going to buy 3 of these larger pouches that you see in the back, they get a 4th free. Get it? 4th free. Freedom.
Yes. Yes.
We're very pro-American here. I love America. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be making this in America, and all of my suppliers are in America. They love what I'm doing. They know who my end users are. They take great care. I'm just so proud. So we'll put up that code, but we think it's going to be 4th free. And now again, that's a lot of product. So one pouch makes 160 fluid ounces or 44-ounce bottles. So that's a big purchase, but your customers can go in and get that 10% off and be about maybe $10 to give it a try, and with a discount. And we always put those things up on social media. So we'll be putting up a discount code on Thursday morning. But this Sammy's 10 for your participants, Kasi, is good anytime, even if it's 30 days from now.
Okay,
any of your
good.
listeners, that's for you. We're using great stuff. And listen, I'm proud. I'm proud of what I've done. And hopefully we keep this going. And yeah, I'm just grateful. Thank you, Kasi.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was wonderful. I'm so happy I have this because there was a post I did 2 years ago and it blew up and then it recirculated and somebody somehow saw it, commented, and then it re-put it out. And I had all these people asking me about Sammy's milk. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I looked and I'm like, somehow it got pushed back out. And I always give the same thing, but now I can actually just share this podcast. That's going to be the easiest thing now. I'm like, here it is. This is all the information. They're going to get to see you and your glowing skin, and they're going to get to hear the story and everything. And it's just, this is just absolutely, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, well, listen, you're sweet. And for what it's worth, this is the only podcast I've ever done. For a lot of reasons, my attorneys have been wanting me to zip it a little bit just so I didn't talk myself into trouble. But, at the end of the day, because nothing's changed, right? I thought, oh, the guy in here right now, he announced a big thing, all these. But sadly, you take a look at like what they did with the food pyramid right now. They turned the food pyramid to the correct way it should be, as an example. And that's being held up in court. And they came and said, we don't need 200 shots for your baby. Let's just come back to a reasonable amount. That's in court. So when you look at why nothing has been done down infant labeling, it's because it's a prescription drug. And the minute he's going to come out and say, you can't put seed oils in, it's going to go to court. Everything that's being done right now is going to end up in the judicial system. What a joke. So at the end of the day, that is the biggest question I'm getting. Can you use this for an infant? And I sadly have to tell everybody, infant labeling is a prescription drug. And that's why none of my high-end European customers are allowed to be on the retail shelves here. You can't walk into a major retailer and find anybody on the store that's not playing the game with the FDA, right? So there's nobody. That's why everybody's paying up the nose through all these high-end European products, and they're not as good as mine. So that's why you can only purchase this on my website. At the end of the day, my product is still less expensive than these high-end European products everybody talks about. And when you look at the ingredients, there is no comparison. I mean, mine is still the best by a landslide. And hopefully reform takes place, Kasi. we'll cross fingers and say a little prayer on it. But if not, this is the way I'm rolling right now. But we monitor heavy metals, pesticides, all these things. So I know who's drinking my stuff at the end of the day, and all of my decisions are based on that. And if people would get a divorce that way, actually making decisions based on the child, nobody would be having a fight, right? Yeah. It's a no-brainer that all of my decisions are based on the little tiny Wilsons getting nourishment. And when you're making decisions based on that, I'm always making the right decision. Always. At the end of the day, I never lose sleep on what is in my product. I stand by it 1,000% if there was such a thing, mathematically.
Thank you. This is what I would say to anybody who's pregnant right now, who's planning on breastfeeding. Wonderful. Do that. But order a bag so that if something happens, you have this here. So you don't have to do what I did and scramble while your baby is hungry and you're dried up and you don't even realize you're dry. It was a whole thing. Have that there just in case. It's just have the backup there. And if you aren't breastfeeding, if you can't, this is the best. And you're going to end up using this anyway, unless you breastfeed till they're 3. I don't know what people do. I see some people online breastfeeding till their kid is 8 and can go up and ask for it. I'm like, ooh.
That would be an easy podcast with the martini. But yes, listen, there's nothing better than breast milk, but I got to tell you, it is unprecedented the amount of sickness there is. And I'm living proof of it. You can eat so healthy, right? You can eat so healthy, but there again, your gut's busted. What is going on? So, I mean, that was sad. Like, who knew that organic cheese is filled with the largest pharmaceutical companies? They've got
just found that out.
Stuff in the rennet. It's genetically modified rennet.
I just found that out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even us in the know, like, it's just mind blowing what the government is allowing through. So, again, a lot of us now are realizing just food is not cutting it. We've got to supplement. We've got to do a few other things to help out. But that's what's going on. How could the FDA let cheese be labeled organic when there's genetically modified rennet being run? Why is a pharmaceutical company in our cheese industry?
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's the problem, that we're all dealing with stuff in our gut, environmental pressures upon us from whatever they're spraying, the water that we're drinking or showering in, or the grass we're walking in. Like, we're being exposed to chemicals left and right. So that, I think, is why we're seeing so many problems today. And, you know, women having issues and not sure what's going on with their baby. It's not their fault. I think a lot of this is happening to us without our knowledge, and certainly not our, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, not just, but like, we don't agree to it, right? Yet it's happening to us anyway, like things they're putting in our water. Like, how do we manage all these things? So at the end of the day, it does not surprise me why so many moms need help.
Yeah.
And we've been cut off at our ankles without even knowing it. Yeah. I mean, including me. And I thought I knew everything. And look what was happening to me. I didn't realize the water in my house was toxic or what have you. Yeah. So it's a rough road to navigate right now, for sure.
And that's what I mean. I want people to have a plan, and the plan very much should include your product, because, as I said, it was a seamless transition. It was. If I could have done that and breastfed and supplemented, I would have done. I dried up. They gave up. Yeah, thank goodness though, because I actually had a ruptured implant that I didn't realize at the time. That's why she wasn't taking off of my right side. I had no idea. So it just, thank goodness that happened. But definitely.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing too, that Wilson knew instinctively that something was not right with your right one?
Yeah. I think also for a baby shower gift, if you are going to a shower, get a bag of this and give it to the mom so that they have it, because no matter what their plan is, let them learn about Sammy's milk. It's incredible. Anyone that's going to listen to this is going to fall in love with you. And I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you, Kasi. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Not like